When did the desire start for you to start getting into weightlifting and bodybuilding and sculpting your body in such a way?
A couple days ago, I did pretty well.
Yeah. Tell me your secret.
Oh,
that's
steroids. I was 14 years old, almost 15, and I had done my first season of high school wrestling freshman year. And I noticed during wrestling that like when people were more muscular, they were stronger and they would just be better at it. And in addition to that, I have the unfortunate genetics of just having a pot belly, sort of no matter what. And growing up as a teen like that and having various friends and relatives point that out left me mildly dissatisfied with the appearance of my body. Not in a way that was all-consuming, but in a way I was like, fuck, I don't want to look like this. And so I began to take some control of my diet, though limited. And as soon as wrestling was over, I began to hit the gym. And at first I didn't like it. I didn't really like lifting. It was uncomfortable. It hurt. And then I decided to listen to some motivating music, which at the time it was my sophomore year. I was in a big Rage Against the Machine arc.
Nice.
But I tried to listen to it during lifting, and I realized that it was exhausting me because it was generating anger. And anger was not an emotion that seemed to be sustainable for me in the gym. And then over time, I went through this journey of listening to music that put me in a headspace that I considered sustainable and enjoyable. Eventually, I started lifting to smooth jazz, which is curious because it's maybe like the most universally hated music. It's like what your dentist plays to torture you in the office when you're waiting. I found that I got into kind of Zen-like states while lifting. And when I was finally able, after about 1.5 years of lifting, to recontextualize the pain of lifting as a good thing, that I wanted to be there for the pain, I began to like it. And then I began to see very good results, and then more results, and then more results, and then more results. And then after about 2 years, I was like full on straight up addicted, and I've never been able to kick the habit. So the ability to have progress, the ability to see my body changing was just like, oh.
Most people don't take it to the extreme that you do. Like a lot of people will go to the gym, myself included.
I can almost tell. Look at those biceps. My God.
Can't quite do that.
How did you get to the airport?
But I love going to the gym every single day. If I miss a day, like I didn't go today, I feel it and I hate missing it. But I'm almost happy where I am now, where I could put on an extra few pounds, but I don't want to progress beyond that. What was different for you to want to take that professionally and to like take it to the point of competition?
I was never overly psyched about competition. I can't say I've ever really like super enjoyed bodybuilding competition. I was a competitive powerlifter first, and I loved powerlifting competition. Powerlifting competition for me and powerlifting for me was an expression of ability, the expression of unmitigated aggression. I think like for whatever genetic and environmental reasons, which I could get into my speculation about those, but you know, ad hoc stories are so easy to tell and so hard to substantiate. I experienced quite a bit of feelings of powerlessness or what I would consider not enough feelings of agency when I was younger, and they sat very poorly with me. And so once I began to lift and get stronger, I realized like the sport of powerlifting existed, and my psychological process for getting amped up for big lifts and then succeeding in lifting them, like I think started tending to my wounds. And when you feel powerless for long enough, anytime you can express your abilities in a way that brings you success, and even the very simple victory over like, I wanted to squat 400 pounds twice and I did it. That starts to get at some deep, deep stuff and really starts to kind of rebuild the very frail, almost collapsed ego to some extent. And that for me was like just crazy, crazy medicine that changed me, I think, potentially over time, and made me feel at a default more secure and more able. And it was really fun because when you're a testosterone-filled young man, I remember one thing I really liked was after you get much over 400 pounds and you're lifting at a standard rack with a standard 45-pound bar, just sitting there, the bar bends, and it just bends, like just the weight sitting there. And you're like, you look at it and you're like, that weight is bending steel, but like, fuck all that. It's never dealt with me before. And that attitude, cultivating that confidence, you have to, in order to lift that kind of weight that's so close to your limit, felt magical. Magical. And practicing that generation of psychological power that comes before the generation of physical power and force was it was insanely addicting, and it was miraculous and awesome. And that I think was a really big deal to me and kept me loving it for a very, very long time. So yeah, I have many, many more good things to say about that, but that's kind of how the process started pretty early.
I want to talk about diet real quick, but first I'm very curious to know, does it feel any different completely, like you're true maxing out, if you're maxing out at like 200 versus if your true max out is like 450? Does it feel different under the bar?
Categorically different.
Are you like actually pushing yourself harder when you're lifting up more weight, even if it's like your true max?
Like, let's say you're doing a squat and you unrack the weight, which is you take it out of the rack and you walk it back. When it's just a few hundred pounds, you just go bloop and it comes off the rack. When it's much more than 400 pounds, you push on it and nothing happens. You push on it harder, nothing happens. You push on it harder and the bar starts bending and all of you is compressed. My friend and colleague at RP, Derek Wilcox, broke the all-time world record squat in a squat suit way back in the day, 10, 15 years ago. And it weighing less than 200 pounds, he squatted over 1,000. And he said it was like 2 or 3 seconds to unrack, to push up. And he was pushing up and his hips were lifting up. The bar at that level is already pre-bent and won't bend much more because it's a thicker bar. And it's bending a little bit, but his hips are rising and it's just spinal compression for like 3 seconds until it moves. Your face fills with blood. A lot of times you'll pop your blood vessels in your eyes. You know what it feels like? I tell you exactly what it feels like. If anyone wants to connect to that on an emotional level, a physical level, it just feels like you're getting crushed. But it doesn't feel like you're getting crushed like you're the victim of something. What it feels like to unrack a heavy squat is exactly the same emotion I feel when you hear like a fucking heavy chord in a metal song, I just feel that all over. And you feel power just fucking surging out of you. And you go, thank God I'm under a bar because I could do serious damage. Like, you guys ever watch Dragon Ball Z? Do you guys know what that is? Anime, like power levels and like everything burning around you. Like that's what it feels like. Because if it doesn't feel like that and you're close to your max, your body's like, fuck this, man. I'm not going to do this. But if you feel your vibe a shitload and you want the pain and you want the crush, like when the bar starts crushing you, you're like, this is what the fuck I signed up for. This is why I want to be here. Because that motherfucker, she's cool. That motherfucker, they don't want any of this. Not that you're singling out other people. It's totally theoretical. Yeah. No, I thought about other people. There's a mild exaggeration, but it's just like when you take the mentality of wanting the pain, when you take the mentality of wanting the difficulty, at some point it turns into like, I want to see how far this goes. And to kind of finish my answer to your question from before, the reason that I got into this and incrementally made it more serious was kind of maybe what I suspect people who climb tall mountains think of when they're like, they hit base camp or something and they look up and there's just a couple of frilly clouds and you can see the summit and it's so far away. And they go, man, what's up there? I wonder how thin the air is. I wonder how many other people thought they could climb it and couldn't. I wonder what it would be like to just go a little bit further. Once you get a certain level of size or strength, you're like, let's push the system a little bit. It's like people who like to race cars. It's scary going fast in a car. Fuck that. Your boy's not doing it. I got friends who like drive cars really fast. My wife used to race cars. The engine's vibrating and the car makes a noise. It sounds kind of disturbed. And you look at how fast you're going, like, please God save me. But to them, it's kind of like, maybe if I go a little bit faster, it'll be kind of fucking neat at the very least. And so for me, my journey of lifting has really been a lot about that, of like, man, how far does this go? How rarefied is the air? How exotic is the situation going to get if I just keep going? And a lot of it is just because of that. And if anyone here listening has ever watched Dragon Ball Z, the anime, and it really spoke to them, comment below. But a lot of that was like, one of my friends showed me the show Dragon Ball Z, and it's like the Japanese equivalent of like Superman, Batman sort of thing. But goddamn, the Japanese do it well. And the entire show is basically about people who fight each other and various bad guys, but they're superpowered. So they teleport, they fly at like 1,000 miles an hour. Like, they fly past a bunch of skyscrapers and just rubble after that. They punch like holes in planets. But that's the cool part for sure. But the coolest part is they train and they get beat up by other people and they almost die. And then they go, man, I just need to get stronger and better. And they hide in a hole, they go in a special room, and for a year or two, nobody sees them. And they're there like fucking perfecting their craft and pushing the limits. And they don't even know if they're going to make it through training. That's how insane they get. And I remember watching that and at first being like, this animation style sucks. And then I watched it for longer and I was like, oh, God, this is it. It spoke to something so deep. Ascending that dominance hierarchy is probably the ancestral ape-like reason my brain likes it so much. I felt low on the totem pole for whatever my bullshit reasons, right? But it doesn't matter, because when you start climbing the dominance hierarchy only by analogy, by just lifting more weight and feeling your ability set improve, it's magical fairy dust for the young male brain.